Risk 1. Impulsivity that doesn't stop at the tattoo. Studies consistently show that women with tattoos score higher in impulsivity. At first, that might feel exciting. She's the girl who says yes to last-minute road trips, who orders shots at midnight, who laughs at rules and turns ordinary nights into adventures. In the beginning, this spontaneity is intoxicating. It feels like you've met someone who makes life more vibrant, more alive. But here's the problem. Impulsivity doesn't stay fun forever. It doesn't stop at road trips or tattoos. It seeps into finances, arguments, and even loyalty. The same thrill-seeking impulse that got her inked in a moment of emotion can lead to reckless spending, explosive fights, and even cheating when temptation appears. A tattoo is permanent, but the decision is often made in a fleeting emotional high. After a breakup. After a fight. During a drunken night out. That pattern, living for the moment, ignoring the consequences, often shows up in her relationships, too. Relationships demand delayed gratification. They require patience, consistency, and the ability to think about the future instead of just the present. If her mindset is always, do what feels good right now, you might find yourself paying the price later. At first, impulsivity feels thrilling. But over time, thrill turns into chaos, and chaos destroys relationships. Risk 2. The mental health connection. This is where things get darker. Multiple studies in clinical psychology reveal a higher correlation between tattoos and mental health struggles, including anxiety, depression, and histories of self-harm. For many women, tattoos are not just decoration, they're therapy. They are coping mechanisms, attempts to reclaim control after trauma, marks of pain turned into something beautiful. A bird after heartbreak. A quote about strength after betrayal. A rose after loss. That sounds poetic, and in some ways it is. But here's the uncomfortable truth. If the wounds that inspired those tattoos haven't healed, you're not just dating her, you're dating her pain. And pain doesn't sit quietly. It comes out in mood swings, emotional withdrawal, volatility. One day she's overflowing with affection. The next day she's cold, distant, or even self-destructive. That emotional roller coaster might feel passionate at first, but over time it will drain you. This doesn't make her a bad person, it makes her human. But as a man, you have to ask yourself, are you ready to carry that weight? Because many men mistake intensity for love. They see her passion, her darkness, her edge, and think, this must be real. But intensity isn't the same thing as stability. And if her tattoos are a map of pain she hasn't healed from, you will eventually feel that pain too. Risk 3. A lifelong craving for attention. Tattoos are designed to be seen. They are visual signals, a way of saying, look at me. Plenty of women will insist they got their tattoos just for themselves, but research tells a different story. Tattoos are strongly correlated with narcissism and attention-seeking traits. Why does this matter in a relationship? Because if her self-worth is tied to outside validation, your attention will never be enough. She will crave more likes on Instagram, more compliments from strangers, more stares when she walks into a bar. At first, this might feel intoxicating. You get to be the man next to her while everyone admires her. But over time, this craving turns into chaos. She might post provocative photos online and dismiss your concerns by saying, you're just insecure. She might flirt publicly and tell you it's harmless. But it isn't harmless. Every glance, every DM, every compliment is a hit of dopamine. And when she's wired for validation, you'll always be competing with the world for her focus. Attention-seeking often leads to temptation, and when temptation is combined with impulsivity, that's a dangerous mix. Risk 4. Risky sexual behavior. Psychological and sociological studies show a clear link between tattoos and risky sexual behavior. Tattooed women report higher numbers of sexual partners and greater openness to casual encounters compared to women without tattoos. This is not judgment, it's data. Tattoos are often a marker of sensation-seeking, of craving novelty and rebellion. And that craving doesn't stop at skin, it often extends into intimacy. This can be magnetic. She might be adventurous, passionate, fiery in the bedroom. But it can also mean she struggles with long-term monogamy. She might seek new thrills when the relationship starts to feel routine. Passion without discipline burns bright, but it also burns out fast, leaving only ashes behind. Risk 5. Aggression and conflict. Another surprising finding in personality research: women with tattoos tend to score higher in aggression. This doesn't mean they're violent, but it does mean they're more likely to be confrontational, quick-tempered, and resistant to authority. In a relationship, that often means frequent arguments, heated conflicts, and a tendency to escalate rather than de-escalate. At first, this can feel intoxicating. You think, finally, a woman with fire. But excitement fades. What you're left with is drama, constant fights, boundaries being tested, respect slowly eroding. Love cannot grow in a constant battlefield. Risk 6. Tattoos as armor. One of the most overlooked truths. For many women, tattoos are armor. They are a way to protect themselves from a world that has hurt them. A way to say, I've been through something and I survived. But if the pain underneath hasn't healed, the tattoo isn't closure, it's camouflage. Camouflage hides pain, but it doesn't erase it. Eventually, it resurfaces. In trust issues, in cycles of self-sabotage, in emotional withdrawal. You might fall in love with her strength, her edge, her fire, but you will also inherit her ghosts. And love alone cannot heal a pain that hasn't been faced. Risk 7. A permanent need for validation. Tattoos are permanent advertisements of identity, rebellion, sexuality, uniqueness. At first, you may love being with someone who draws attention everywhere she goes. But over time, that craving for validation grows louder, and your attention alone may never be enough. What once made you proud will start to drain you. And attention-seeking rarely ends at admiration. It flirts with temptation, and temptation is the doorway to betrayal. Risk 8. Rebellion against stability. Tattoo culture is rooted in rebellion. That rebellious streak might be sexy at first. She's bold, unapologetic, unafraid to stand out. But rebellion can turn into resistance. Resistance to compromise. Resistance to commitment. Resistance to the structure that healthy relationships need to last. Rules, boundaries, routines, the very things that make relationships stable, might feel like a prison to her. And instead of seeking peace, she may seek disruption. Risk 9. The shadow of regret. Here's an uncomfortable fact. Women are statistically more likely than men to regret tattoos. What once felt empowering can, years later, become a reminder of mistakes, bad choices, or past phases they wish they could erase. If she regrets her tattoos, she may regret other decisions too, including her choice in men. Regret leads to restlessness, dissatisfaction, and the belief that something better is out there. Regret is poison to long-term love. Risk 10. A higher likelihood of divorce. Sociological data shows that women with tattoos are more likely to experience divorce and relationship breakdowns. Why? Because the same traits tied to tattoos, impulsivity, rebellion, thrill-seeking, clash with the sacrifices and patience that marriage requires. The fire that drew you to her can, years later, be the same fire that burns the relationship to the ground. Risk 11. A life of drama. And finally, perhaps the most dangerous risk of all, drama. Tattooed women statistically score higher on sensation-seeking and emotional volatility. Peace can feel boring. Calm can feel dead. Drama, on the other hand, feels alive. At first, this whirlwind can be addictive. She texts you constantly, kisses like she's starving, fights like every disagreement is life or death. But over time, this cycle drains you. You find yourself walking on eggshells, never sure if you'll wake up to affection or anger. Breakups, makeups, tears, jealousy, it becomes the glue of the relationship. And the cruel twist. The more you try to calm the storm, the more she stirs it. Because for her, drama isn't dysfunction, it's oxygen. The bottom line. Not every tattooed woman is toxic. There are exceptions. But psychology isn't about exceptions, it's about patterns. And the patterns are undeniable. Tattoos are not just art. They are signals, signs of risk-taking, rebellion, pain, and sometimes chaos. The ink may be beautiful, but what lies beneath it might bring instability, impulsivity, or self-destruction into your life. Men don't get burned because women hide who they are. They get burned because they ignore the signs staring them in the face. So the next time you feel drawn to a tattooed woman, pause and ask yourself, Are you falling for her individuality, or are you mistaking rebellion for compatibility?